Hello, I want to welcome you to my house in Elora. I wanted to put together a few moments to share with you on this holy Good Friday, Easter Saturday, and Easter Sunday weekend. I want to share with you a couple of musical examples that I think that sum up musically what this weekend is all about. And of course, I'm going to talk about the composer Johannes Sebastian Bach. And I'm going to talk about his epic, monumental work, the B minor Mass. I've performed this Mass some 11 or 12 times. And each time I come back to it, I'm always amazed at the new things I constantly find. The two movements I want to share with you today are the movement, the Crucifixus, followed by the Et Resurrexit. Crucifixus is the dying on the cross and the burying of the body, and the Et Resurrexit is the ascension, the resurrection of Easter Sunday. Now, Bach uses the Crucifixus. It's the fifth movement of the 9-movement credo. Bach is really into symmetry, and this is the pivotal movement of that 9-movement text of the credo. He uses, he borrows music from an old cantata that he had written years ago. In fact, a lot of the B minor is material that's been used elsewhere. But in this one, he borrowed it from a cantata called Weinen, Klagen, Sorgen, Zagen. And the text of that translation is weeping, wailing, grieving, fearing. It's very apt. It works extremely well musically, and it's really poignant and even more tragic with the text of Crucifixus. Bach uses the word Crucifixus many times in this movement, and that's an unusual factor in itself. Bach never repeats one word. He repeats phrases of text like Kyrie eleison or whatever, but he never repeats one word until he gets to this point in the Mass of Crucifixus, this constant wailing, crying of Crucifixus. Now, musically, it's really interesting. It is based on an ostinato bass. An ostinato bass is just a bass line that's so long and repeats and repeats and repeats. Now, I'm going to play it for you on my very out-of-tune piano. I couldn't get a piano tuner in these days. So I'm sorry about the out-of-tuneness, but you know, the world is sort of out of tune these days, so it's sort of fitting. As this is a Baroque piece, my piano is sort of reflecting its Baroque brokenness. So here's the bass line. And that repeats. Now, interestingly enough, this bass line, and it's in halves, and those are quarter notes, it takes 13 beats to get through that motif. And what's really interesting, it takes 13 repeats of that to conclude the piece. Bach is very much into symmetry. On top, he has the strings and the flutes. He uses flutes because flutes are the equate with the heavenly sound. An oboe equates with an earthly representation. So I'll play you the string parts with the bass. So it's that falling flute and string line, that ever descending passage starts high and comes down. Then we have the choir who enter with the text Crucifixus. Here are the sopranos, followed by the alto, tenor, bass, tenor, soprano. Now there are a couple of times in there that those are clashes between the soprano and the alto right at the beginning. That's a tritone. And what the terminology for a dissonance, this dissonance is often referred to in musical terminology as the cross relationship. It's not a pleasant relationship, it's at a cross. And it's amazing how Bach employs a cross relationship when dealing with the text of Crucifixus and the death of Christ. Now these motifs are very representative of a tear, a prayer motif, the blood dripping down from the body. These are all descending motifs that are all in reverence and prayer and sadness. So as I said, this moves on for 13 repeats. And he gets down to the 5 bars from the end and he's still in E minor. But he's going to be going on in D major in the Resurrexit. Now going from E to D is very difficult. It's now modern day, that's very simple, but in that day, it's not easy at all. So he has to move through into another key. And I call this 5 bars where he's suffered and the text is where he suffered and he's buried, almost the transitional of Holy Saturday. And here are the 5 bars. I think this chord right before the end is very representative of the body leaving the tomb. Now, interpretively, at this moment, if I was performing this piece, I have a big silence for people to reflect, pray for those that we see no longer, to think of the suffering and what Jesus gave up for us. Almost to the point that in the audience it feels uncomfortable. And then we burst forth with the Resurrexit. Now, this Resurrexit movement has got everything. Trumpets, timpani, the full orchestra, and it's a flurry of excitement, and it's an ascending passage, representing to resurrect. The instrumental writing is highly ornate, very decorative, very active, very fugal, unlike what we just came from, which is sort of like a chaconne, a quiet, prayerful, repetitive, moaning movement into a very alive, electric passage. There's a lot to be said, but the music says it all. This is a work that is monumental, and it's the synthesis of every stylistic and technical contribution Bach made to music. It's an astounding spiritual encounter between the worlds of the Catholic glorification and the Lutheran cult of the cross. So on this Holy Weekend, I just wanted to share these 2 very poignant pieces that I know we can't go to church. Everything is live on stream these days, and I thought I would just share the devotion and the actual spiritual journey of these 2 magnificent musical examples. Bach is such perfection, but beyond that, he's a religion unto himself. And his religious beliefs are so strongly imprinted into this music. Even if you don't understand Bach, you can hear the life of a believer. It's amazing. So I share this with you. I hope you enjoy. This will be the first of many I'm going to do of different pieces that I enjoy and I want to share with you. So I want to wish you a blessed Good Friday and a very joyful Easter Sunday. Thank you. On the letter that we've attached with this video, we've made note of 2 excerpts that you can download on YouTube. They're by John Elliott Gardner and his Monteverdi group. He's a superb musician. I mean, he's the go-to guy for this music. We highly recommend you download them and hear them in their entirety. It will be in tune, which would be nice, unlike my piano. Thank you.